I'm surprised that you're up this early this morning after you guys wrestling with the Ryan budget yesterday. You're a member of the House Budget Committee. Congressman Chris Van Hollen, the ranking Democrat, was in studio yesterday morning, and he was saying that there's that as bad as the Ryan budget was, there were a whole lot of Democratic amendments or amendments you guys had put together that you're going to offer to try to make it a little better. How did that go?
Not so well. We spent about 10 and a half hours trying to make it it's hard to say a better document because fundamentally it's flawed in many ways, but to try to make it a document that might have a little less pain. And of course, nothing was accepted. I don't think we got a Republican vote in the entire 10 and a half hours.
Not for even one amendment?
No.
And one of the amendments I know the Congressman talked about was immigration reform, right?
Absolutely.
You want to save money. You want to go ahead.
And not only is it the right thing to do, but economically, it's a great boon for the country, proven by nonpartisan reports. So we had that out there to help create jobs. One of the big things is the Paul Ryan budget's been estimated to kill 3 million jobs. Now the Progressive Caucus has a better off budget that's going to create about 8.8 million jobs, but this is going to lose 3 million jobs. And when you go through all the provisions, it doubles down on the sequester. It doesn't extend unemployment insurance. It doesn't pass immigration reform. It doesn't do any of the things that we could do to actually create jobs and still kills them. And all at the same time, it lowers the top rate to 25% so that the rich still get richer. At one point, Paul Ryan described it as a win-win budget. Yes, I agree. It's a win for the 1% and it's a win for the second percentile. But the rest of us kind of get shafted.
Right. And so the immigration reform was shot down as well. What are the key points of the Ryan budget? We've heard it does repeal Obamacare.
It repeals all the benefits of the Affordable Care Act, but it keeps the revenue in savings. It's a completely intellectually dishonest document. So they say it balances. That's their big talking point is it balances in 10 years, but it only balances on the worst math that a fourth grader wouldn't get by with in class, but somehow in Congress it's called intellectual might.
But if you get rid of the benefits, then you don't get the revenue.
Well, exactly.
Right?
That's why it's an intellectually dishonest document, but it's still uses the dollars just to make it balance, to say we balanced it in 10 years. And they do this over year after year. And at some point I'm waiting for, even people within their party, besides people like Sarah Palin who didn't like the budget, but real people within their party to say, look, this isn't intellectually honest to keep putting this forward. Or it has a $125 billion cut to food stamps. Now, you remember we had a fight during the food stamp bill of $20 billion, then went up to $39 billion. We wound up at $8 billion. This is $125 billion. It's not even in the realm of a possibility, and yet that's the numbers they use to make this thing balance.
But there wouldn't be anything left in the program if you cut $125 billion.
Oh, exactly, right? Exactly. And Paul Ryan already, kind of separately is talking about his poverty initiatives that's got him in a lot of hot water because he sees getting rid of poverty programs as getting rid of poverty, which, of course, again, intellectually completely falls apart.
And privatize Medicare. In the Ryan budget?
Voucher system, absolutely. They'll try to argue why it's not a voucher system, but it's very clearly that. Again, they take where we take savings and put it into healthcare. They just take savings to reduce the deficit, and then you have less healthcare for everybody. Is this really what the Republicans want to run on this year? Is this their platform? This is, I think, in their heart of hearts, what they believe.
Or they just hope nobody will notice what's in it.
I think you're exactly right, Bill, because what we said is this is the crystal ball if they ever took the Senate. And if they ever took the presidency, this is what they would actually do. This would be devastating to the middle class and those aspiring to be in the middle class, devastating to students, to small business owners, go down the list, senior citizens. This is their roadmap. So we should look at this far more closely, even though we know the document's not going to be real because of the Senate and the president, and it's not real because the numbers don't mathematically work out. But this is what they really believe in and what they really want to accomplish, and that's a pretty scary document.
Yeah, boy. I'll say also just the fact again that Peter, you made this point earlier. I didn't hear a lot of Republicans stand up yesterday and say, "What a great budget we've got!" Right? Take a look at this budget, folks. You're going to love it.
Yeah.
They kind of slipped it out there and then
walked away from it.
Here
it is, bye.
Well, they didn't even have a press conference. They kind of said, "Oh, what's that on the floor? Oh, that's the budget." Okay, that's how they introduced it. And
that's what that smell is.
Yeah,
okay.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, if you're doing that, you don't have a lot to go on. And yet, I'm kind of surprised they still brought it out there. I just think that, they really believe this stuff. That's the problem. And as much as they may not want to tout it during an election year, this is what happens if they take the Senate. This is what will happen. If they continue to hold the House, this is what will happen. That's why we got to pick up the seats in the House and hold the Senate.
Now, we mentioned that the Ryan budget would repeal Obamacare. He released this the same day. I was down at the White House in the Rose Garden when the president announced that 7.1 million people had signed up by the deadline of March 31. And, of course, there are a couple of 100,000 that are still in line that are doing their paperwork now. So the number is going to be even higher. What does that mean to you about the future of Obamacare?
To me, that's a tremendous success, right? Everything they said they were going to accomplish with it, they did, and then some. The problem is the Republicans are still going to point to some guy in Oklahoma whose rates went up, right? And that's going to be everything they talk about is some guy. It's always anecdotal. But 7.1 is a vice president say a pretty big
BFD.
Yeah, BFD. Thank you. It is radio. I got to be careful. It's a great success, and that's just signing into that. How about the state exchanges? How about the children who are staying on their parents' policies? Go down the list of all the other benefits, and suddenly
expanded Medicaid.
People really have, except of course in states like Wisconsin, where Scott Walker refuses to do what's right for his own constituents because he's too busy running for president. But we've got some real big successes.
Do you think this will embolden Democrats now to stand up and say, yeah, I voted for it, and I'm proud I voted for it?
I think we should. Those of us who don't, I think, are miscalculating the success that's out there. I've never had people call my office crying in before like they did when they called. I had several of these, again, not to govern by anecdote, but called up and said, I've never been able to get health care access before. I got stopped in the grocery store by someone who runs a daycare saying, I finally can now, I have health care. I'd never been able to have it before. All these years she's been taking care of my neighbor's children. This is something that really significantly changes people's lives in a very positive way, and I think we should be very, very proud of that.
Yeah, because I would hope that Democrats that this is an opportunity to flip the debate, and instead of being on the defensive about explaining why they still support it even though it has some flaws, is turning around to Republicans and say, no, you explain why you want to take away all these good things that so many millions of Americans are enjoying right now.
Exactly. And they have no alternative. And let's put it this way. If you want health care access, you like Democrats. If you want a better done website, get a Republican. Right?
That's a good way of putting it. The minimum wage, Congressman, you've been leading the charge, one of those leading the charge in the House to raise the minimum wage. The president talked about it yesterday at the University of Michigan. There's no doubt the American people are for it. I think the majority of Republicans are probably for it,
Absolutely.
Except Republicans in your body of Congress.
Right. I'm a small business owner. I've been since I had hair, 26 years, over half of my lifetime. And there are a lot of reasons why it's good to raise the minimum wage. First of all, we're way past where we should be. Right now we would be at like $10.68 an hour if we kept up with inflation from 1968, something right around that figure. But two, this puts money immediately into the economy. Immediately, you have people who are able to buy things, and that stimulates the economy. So as a small business owner, I know that it has that rising tide effect and helps everyone out. And, to think that someone's going to get by on $15,000 is just not true. The real thing, and I had slides yesterday I brought up during the committee, is people think it's always a high school kid living at home with a little extra money. That's 12% of the people are under 20. Not even high school kids, but under 20. The rest the average age is 35. These are people who are head of households. Half of them, it's over half of their income. This is real money to real people, and it's time we give America a raise.